Happy Tuesday, everyone. It's December 30th. We're closing out 2025, and all eyes are turning toward the new year, and it's looking like it could be a snowy one. We've had some incredibly interesting model runs coming in, and we're starting to see alignment in the data suggesting that the potential for an active storm track could bring multiple snow chances, or possibly significant snowstorms through the first 2 weeks or so of January. That's becoming a higher likelihood with each passing model cycle. I'm going to break it all down for you right now. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Gerald. I'm a meteorologist at WCCB Charlotte. Everything you're about to see is brand new data, hot off the press, all from today's latest model runs. This is the European ensembles showing where the highest likelihood of seeing snow accumulation exists over the next week or two, and you can start to see those snow probability lines beginning to creep southward. You see substantial lake effect in the near term, and then the snow line starts pushing down into the mid-Atlantic through coastal sections of the Northeast and New England, and potentially even further south than that. So what's driving all this? We'll talk about that throughout this breakdown, but before we get to the long-range pattern, let's discuss where we've come from. Right now, we're dealing with a massive shot of cold air. We've had a powerful storm system move across the country. This map shows the change in temperatures over the past 24 hours, nearly a 40 to 50 degree drop in temperatures over the heartland of the United States as that enormous block of cold air pushed in. It's still warm out ahead of the system as our low pressure currently sits up in the Hudson Valley and the Great Lakes, pulling warm air northward with cold air rushing in behind it. That's why it's so incredibly windy out there today for many areas. These clashing temperature zones create a clashing pressure gradient, which is kicking up those winds across large sections of the country. But this particular shot of cold air isn't going to last forever for some locations. It will persist longer for others and will bring the chance of continued lake effect snow along with multiple little clipper systems. You can see on our 500 millibar vorticity map these little pieces of energy diving down into the Midwest and Northeast over the coming week or so. That's going to bring multiple rounds of lake effect and potentially clipper systems as well. By the way, if you'd like specific weather forecasts for your region or city, please leave them in the comments. I'll answer them individually as time allows. Also, if you like the video and subscribe to my channel, you'd be very grateful. Now let's move on. Then once we get past about the 5th of January or so, that's when the pattern opens up and starts looking a lot more interesting for more folks than just the Northeast. But let's talk about the near-term situation first with that lake effect, potential snow squalls, how much could fall, and then we'll break down the longer-range pattern in detail. Starting with this evening, you can see our big storm system up into Canada still producing wild weather and tremendous amounts of lake effect snow on the backside working into places like New York State, the Tug Hill region, down toward Buffalo, Erie, even into the snow belt of Ohio and back into Michigan where we've seen huge snow totals and even some wind damage with this storm. Still have a couple scattered showers into portions of coastal New England this evening, but those will slowly clear out. The bigger story will be the lake effect that takes over overnight tonight and continues even into tomorrow afternoon. It looks like a little shortwave piece of energy. You can see it diving in from Minnesota through Wisconsin. This will be by tomorrow afternoon and evening for your today, kind of diving down. Could bring another quick hit of snow to places like Chicago, northern Indiana, portions of Ohio. That even tries to get into the Northeast. Notice by Wednesday afternoon, this is New Year's Eve, we start to bump up this snow shield a little bit. It's still mainly lake effect driven, but some of that tries to escape, and you get a bit of a messy low. This model, at least, the RGEM model, tries to develop a little bit of coastal energy here and could bring maybe some nice snow as we're switching the calendar from 2025 to 2026. Maybe as the ball's dropping in New York City, could we see some snow? Not impossible. It'll definitely be cold at the very least. Even brings a nice little northwest flow event to West Virginia and surrounding areas. That gets us all the way through Thursday afternoon, the 2nd of January. So you get the idea? It's a pretty active look. We've definitely got a lot of lake effect as this very strong block of cold air is working across the region, then a little clipper energy kind of enhancing it and trying to phase off the coast, potentially bringing snow closer to the I-95 corridor. Now, it probably won't be a huge deal for areas around there. We'll see exactly how the mesoscale ingredients line up for maybe a quick burst of snow for some locations, but where this will be a significant event is in that lake effect corridor. That's where we could see feet of snow over the coming days. Here's the 48-hour snowfall forecast from the National Weather Service. You can definitely see this is mainly lake effect driven over the next 2 days. Going to get even more snow into the Upper Peninsula, into the northern mitten and western shorelines of Michigan, anywhere upward of half a foot still to come, with some isolated spots potentially seeing even more, especially up in the UP over the next 48 hours. As you go further ahead with all this energy flying around, maybe some Clipper influence getting mixed in on top of this, you can see once we get through about Thursday morning, the 1st of January, snow totals start bumping up even into Chicago, northern Indiana, down into Ohio, where we could see an inch to even a couple inches in some areas, and even getting a little more snow back up into the Twin Cities in that same time frame. For the Northeast, just the next 48 hours alone is going to be dumping feet of snow into the Tug Hill of upstate New York overnight, tonight into tomorrow and tomorrow night. More than a foot likely in areas around Erie, Buffalo, back out toward the snow belt of Ohio. Going to see potentially double-digit snowfall numbers through the next 2 days, though not a whole lot of snow breaks containment initially. We could definitely see some flurries, see a couple quick snow showers break containment, but it wouldn't amount to much in terms of travel impacts. However, as we go further ahead in time, some of the models try to show a little bit of energy breaking containment New Year's Eve into New Year's Day. You can see in that time frame as the ball is dropping maybe a little coastal energy, throwing some moisture back into this pocket of cold air. We'll definitely watch the trends on this, but could see someone get a quick burst of snow that results in, I wouldn't even be surprised if we get a couple inches out of it if some of the models are correct. But this is a more conservative idea. Maybe some folks along I-95 getting a dusting up to an inch or so once we get closer to New Year's Eve night into New Year's Day. Watch it though, because again, we could get some folks that receive a little more than that, as some models have suggested, and I think it's definitely a realistic output. Now let's talk about January and the really interesting pattern signal that's emerging. Let's pick up where we left off. This is January 1st. Remember, maybe some surprise snow the very last night of 2025 going into the first day of 2026. All of that thanks to this big trough showing up on the map. Pretty easy to see with all the blue, the core of it up into Canada, but then you get an extension of it and maybe another little maximum right along the northeast coastline. That's why I think maybe a little surprise snow closer to the coast could be something to watch in this time frame. As this is happening, we've got a big block up into Greenland. You can see it on the European Ensemble member, which is a pretty reliable forecasting tool. You've got that block, and then you've got this extension of cold air working especially into the Northeast and Great Lakes, but I think that extension of cold air is going to evolve and start to move. Check it out as we go further ahead in time, right around the 7th of January, the 8th, the 9th. Notice that trough starts to sink southward and gets a lot more interesting. Now, as this is happening, we're getting within that 10-day range or so. That block of energy up into Greenland is still there, which traps this pocket of cold air, but also sinks it further south. You also start to get a ridge trying to spike up into the Rockies. That too helps dislodge cold air further south. As that's happening, some of our models have indicated that some of this little Pacific energy or maybe some energy from Alberta Clippers could try to get shoved into this trough. And that would lead to higher chances of your classic Miller A and Miller B type storm setups for somebody. Does that mean as far south as Atlanta's going to get snow? No. But I think this is an especially good look for the Northeast, the Great Lakes, and the Mid-Atlantic. Could we get further south than that? Potentially, although you might need to wait a little bit longer into January the further south you go, as is typical. The GFS model agrees. Here's the GFS ensembles showing Thursday morning looking pretty promising. Then that trough digs south, and right around 10 or so days from now, from the 5th, especially the 7th through the 10th of January, you've got a signal here for some sort of action to get going. Maybe it moderates a little after that, but this is a good look right here. Right around, give or take a couple days, the 8th, 9th, 10th of January is looking promising on the models. It's not just the ensembles either. We're starting to get some deterministic model runs showing specifics. I'll show them to you, but with caution and understanding. Remember, this is 10 days out. This is not a forecast, but it shows what general storm systems can happen with a pattern like the ensembles are projecting. I'm actually going to show you the Canadian model. Again, this is not a forecast, but shows the general kind of storms you can get with a pattern like the one currently forecasted around the 10th of January or so. Obviously, plenty will change, but nonetheless, it's a promising look. Here's what the Canadian shows. It's got that little system by Thursday morning of this coming week, New Year's morning. You can see some of that snow down into the New England area, even coastal sections. That's what I mentioned in that time frame. Could be interesting to watch. Then you keep going. You've got a bit of a southern slider here Friday night into Saturday morning. Cold air has your rain-snow line locked up toward Virginia northbound. If this trends north, which is known to happen, could get a sneaky little snow event maybe into the mid-Atlantic and southern sections of the Northeast. Then comes the pattern change. Here's one little clipper that brings in the pattern around the 6th or so. Cold air locks in, you get some northern stream energy diving south, connecting with southern stream energy, and check it out. You've got a classic Miller storm developing with typical snow and rain lines setting up right around the 8th or so of January. That's in that time frame we're watching. Obviously, 10 days out, the next model run will look different, but something to watch with this general pattern. What about the European model? Again, well out in time, but notice it's very similar to the Canadian. This is the 7th and 8th. You've got this big shot of cold air. You've got some energy riding along it. It tries to get snow as far south as Atlanta, the upstate of South Carolina and surrounding areas, then rides up the coast as a big Miller system but doesn't quite connect into a huge storm. But you can see the pattern is there. So you put all this together, what do we know right now? We know the pattern is favorable. Can we get something like those models show? Plenty of time to figure it out, but there's definitely a chance and it's something to watch. For now, the better thing to look at are the ensembles. You can see there is a signal right in that time frame around 10 or so days from now. It's not massive, but notice where the model shows snow chances, from the Northeast down into the Mid-Atlantic and into the Ohio Valley. That's where we typically have the highest chance of seeing snow in a pattern like the one being projected by the models now. That's what we know right now. We've got plenty of time until we get there. We've definitely got major lake effect snow ongoing right now. Maybe a surprise little snow New Year's morning, maybe even some snow falling as the ball drops. Don't rule it out. I've got my eyes on it. Then attention really turns to that time frame we spent the second half talking about. That period around January 7th through 10th, when the pattern looks particularly favorable for significant winter weather across a broad section of the country. Stay tuned, because if these signals continue strengthening, we could be looking at an active and snowy start to 2026.